When I was 17 and my mom and sisters dropped me off in a dirt parking lot in Georgia, I thought that my Appalachian Trail through hike was going to be life changing. I had seen videos and videos of people talking about how their through hikes had changed their lives forever in all of these grand ways. They would come off the trail and then there would be a video a few months later about how life changing the experience was. And yet, when I finished up in Maine 5 months later, and I got off the trail, and everyone that I would talk to would ask me how it had changed my life, I could only tell them, I don't know. A lot of the lessons that I did learn from the AT and a lot of the ways that the AT did change my life were not apparent to me once I hit Katahdin, or for that matter, even a year, 2 years afterwards. Now, 4 years after I started the AT, I am looking forward to starting the PCT in the spring. And so, with that, I've been doing some reflecting on my experience on the Appalachian Trail. And I thought it would be cool to kind of share some of the ways that that thru hike changed my life, but with the additional perspective of 4 more years. First of all, on some sillier notes, I think that through hiking, if you're doing the through hike pretty cheap, which I was, makes you way better at sticking to a budget. So, being a college student definitely wasn't as difficult as it could have been, considering that I was dirt bagging it for 5 months before I got to college. Another silly thing is I feel like it makes you better at being bored, and what I mean by that is that a through hike kind of heightens your tolerance for boredom because on your through hike you probably don't have service. You can't just be, scrolling on your phone whenever you're bored. You have to actually like talk to people and come up with silly little things to keep yourself entertained. And I feel like that tolerance for boredom can be really beneficial in actual life to kind of stay off the phone. Um, and then on to kind of some of the more monumental ways that my through hike really did change my life forever. Um, First of all, I feel like it made me appreciate community so much more. I've always conceptually valued community, but I can find being social kind of difficult sometimes. I have certain struggles or perceived struggles in social situations. And my through hike was one of the first times that I really felt embraced by a community of people. And I really felt deeply known and cared for by some of my closest trail friends. And that was really valuable to me. I feel like I learned about what sorts of social situations I tend to do better in, which has helped me, like, in my normal life, kind of change how I interact so that I am in situations that are more conducive to me, like being outgoing and making friends and things like that. But I really just, I felt deeply cared for. And I think that that's such a wonderful thing to feel, right? In a similar vein, even the folks that I was around who weren't my closest trail friends, it was really cool to always be meeting a bunch of strangers. And generally speaking, nearly all of those strangers care about you, care about your safety, care about your well being. It's a much more personal connection when you're in the woods. And if you need something, even if someone is there that you just met, they're probably willing to help you out if they can. And so I feel like in that way, it really kind of restored some of my faith in humanity. And I think that it's a very, very valuable thing to feel like you can trust people, even folks that you don't know, right? One of the other things that I think is probably one of the most common things with folks who through hike is that it definitely like enhances your understanding or your self concept of what you're able to do, right? Physically, mentally. And so after having completed the AT, it was pretty easy to go, well, why can't I do whatever? So a couple years after finishing, I got into ultra running because at first I was like, well, if I can hike 27 miles in a day, why can't I run 30? Um, and then it just kind of spirals from there. And so it's really cool to have that like self confidence in a very literal way about like your capabilities. And it's really changed what I would be open to trying. versus prior to my through hike. I also think that, and this is one of the things that really I didn't understand until at least 2 years after my through hike, but I think that the process of preparing for my through hike, being on my through hike, and then the multiple years after that, um, allowed me to understand better strategies to keep myself healthy mentally and physically. So the couple years before my through hike, I was very good about taking care of myself because I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to complete a through hike if I don't sleep, if I don't eat, if I don't drink water. Very basic human person things, but can be difficult for some people, right? Because the years prior in my like adolescence, not very good at that. The couple of years before my through hike, very good at that. And then the year after, horrible, worst year of my life. But it was only after that that I realized for me the value of having really big goals that I feel like are big enough that I'm a little bit scared that I can't do it. And because I'm scared I can't do it, I feel like I have to take care of myself. I have to be very serious about it. And for me, there's a big value in that. So ultra running kind of became that thing, because sometimes I feel like, well, I can get by school and work just fine, even if I'm not taking care of myself. So I feel like I have to take on additional constructed obstacles, if you will, constructed challenges, that kind of force me to take care of myself, which sounds a little strange, perhaps, but it works as a strategy for me. And I didn't realize that until at least 2 years after my through hike, and like thinking about those patterns of behavior in myself. And then my kind of final way that my through hike changed my life, really likely forever and in a very literal way versus a more like self-concept, self-narrative way, is it was a catalyst for me getting into other sorts of outdoor activities, but also realizing that I would like to go into the outdoor recreation industry as a career path. So after I finished the AT, my first year of college, I wasn't planning on getting a job. I was like, let's focus on school for my first year. And then I saw that my college's outdoor rec department was hiring. And I thought, well, I might as well. Like, that's so fun, it doesn't even matter if I should focus on school right now. And then it wasn't until a couple of years working through that program that I even thought it might be feasible for me. I think that outdoor recreation careers are not really touted as practical. Um, and so it wasn't until a few years after my through hike that I even really realized that that could be a viable career option for me. And I get so much joy out of enabling people to get into the outdoors and like have these experiences, these life-changing experiences for themselves. In particular, when people are going on like their first backpacking trip, or like it's their first time camping outside, like that is so exciting to me and so fulfilling to me, whether I'm guiding the trip they're on or if I'm doing logistics for other folks who are doing trips, or I mean, really anything in between, anything vaguely related. Um, and I never would have gotten a part-time job in outdoor rec stuff if it wasn't for through hiking the AT. And I certainly wouldn't be considering it as a career path. And I didn't know what I was going to do, honestly. I thought I was going to do something totally different. And this has really just changed my life path, which is really, really awesome. And I've been able to like set myself up pretty well for that. So if you have any jobs, hit me up. But yeah, so that's kind of like a what's on my mind right now before I start the Pacific Crest Trail, about how hiking the Appalachian Trail in 2021 really changed my life. I shout out to my good trail friend Hatback. We were talking about this. We were talking about how I feel like folks make these videos like right after their through hike or even like a year afterwards. but it's not as often that you hear folks make videos 4, 5, 10 years removed. And I think that like at least after a couple years is when like really you start to fully kind of understand and like process some of the ways in which your through hike has changed your life. I don't feel like all of those realizations can happen a year afterwards. At least for me, they certainly didn't. And so I thought it would be really cool to make this video. It was Hatback's idea. But anyway, I'm going to be posting a lot more videos about through hiking and caving and other like outdoor activities that I'm doing leading up to my PCT through hike, which I plan on making a bunch of videos on. So if you're interested in any of that, please stick around. If you have any video requests, if you want to like hear me talk about anything about my AT through hike or anything like that, feel free to put them below. And thank you for sticking around.